the new stock locations, you can define stock on multiple levels on each product variant. So that allows you to specify how many quantity. The count of how many is in each warehouse. That was really difficult to get.
The different stock information for each product and each variant in its stock location around the globe, I guess, or
yes,
cities.
Exactly. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's about it. I think, like we mentioned at the beginning, it would be really nice to do a sort of a round trip first, to show where we're at right now.
Yeah. Let's see the visuals. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So. All right, so what I have here is basically the furniture shop, the one that is, of course, available for every one of you. And now I'm gonna go just purchase a regular item, just 4,000 euros, no problem. Add them to the checkout. Hopefully, on my screen is quite visible, right?
It is to me. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Looks good. So I'll just add some dummy information here. I will go check out with Stripe. And before I proceed with pressing the button Pay Now, I just want to very briefly show you this guy here, actually this guy here. So I am now in the backend of Crystallize. And what I have is basically a webhook setup. This webhook is Amazon FBA. And essentially it connects to a URL, which is basically my service API that I am running locally. Of course, this could be your deployed service API, but just for this example, I just want to show it locally because we cover how you can, set it up in production, the service API, or in, available in the net, in both other videos and in our learn pages. But we have not done that in a local environment. So maybe, you want to try it out first. That's what I'm doing here. And as you can see here, I have a very simple webhook setup. We'll go through all of these steps together, but I just have a body here with the information that I want to query and send to FBA, to Amazon. This is an event on order creation. And that's pretty much it. And here I'm listening to events. As you can see, this is, of course, past webhook events in, whatever trials and errors that we've been doing. But we should expect something like this as a response when an order is created.
Yeah, you're running fast, Davros. So
Am I running fast? Sorry.
So essentially, this webhook here is named Amazon FBA. Now, what it's really is doing, it's just calling your backend service whenever a new order is created in Crystallize. So a better name might be order created for the webhook name. Now, I'm not going to say that you want to change it now, but in most cases that's what it's doing. But and you said in the edit webhook you could define the body of what you wanted to send to Amazon. Now, the webhook body, please go into the edit mode just once more.
Should I just go for it?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly just look at the fields we got here, because these are the queryable fields for the order. The order that just has been created, and these are the values that that you craft to send to your own service. So essentially, you have an opportunity to receive all these fields in your service, and then choose how and what to send to FBA later. So I just wanted to say that, because it just sounded like this webhook goes directly to FBA. It does not. It goes to your service API, and then you do the magic.
Oh yeah, that is absolutely right. So sorry if I caused any confusion. Basically, we're getting the data from Crystallize into our middleware service API, which translates these fields into what FBA expects us to send. So I just created this query. Of course, there are examples here that you can use. And of course, you can enhance it however you want. But that's why I wrote this query myself, to just, exactly fetch the information that I want specifically for this integration. Of course, you can just access all order information if you want to in the webhook. There's no problem there. Cool. All right, so I'll just go in and press pay now. And just as a reminder again, I do have the service API running in my background. So if I go here, go back. Oh, I do have the second webhook. This guy, as you can see, it just ran now, and I get the response of the items that are actually fulfilled in FBA. It was quite, of course, now you have just the visual here, not too much information, but we can just go in. And do you think, Håkon, we should go through the code, or basically just how you set it up first? What do you think is better?
You know what? I would just like to see the entire order being done. But so essentially, so what you have now, you have a completed order, and so what we can see here is that on the right hand side, on the where it says response body, this is what the service API returned back to Crystallize after the webhook was successfully received and dealt with. So yeah, I think it makes sense now to go through the code a little bit and see what happened, because now according to the webhook response here, the order should have been created in an FBA, and we're done.
That is correct,
right?
Cool. So I can just go through the code real quick, or not real quick, maybe just take a minute here. All right. So what do I have in place? This is basically the code that is running when I get an event from Crystallize that an order is created, and I get some data in. So just to give you a very brief overview of what this piece of code does, it essentially creates a first link. I want to say, use this word, I guess, a first connection to the Amazon selling partner API.
Right. And you're using
the API. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're using a package from Amazon here at the top, or someone that has written a wrapper, right?
That is correct. I would highly recommend you use something similar, if not this one. The reason being that it takes quite some effort to essentially get all the requests in place, and the steps needed to just get essentially just a first response that, all right, you're good to go, you can query the API.
Yeah, and also just to clarify here, before you can do any of this, you need to have an Amazon seller account.
Correct.
Right, and this is the account that if you want to sell anything on Amazon that you have, even if you don't do any kind of integrations or development yourself, you need a seller account. And you can
and have, of course, all the tax related information and company related information in place. That's also something that we need to be having.
But that's not enough, isn't it? Like so
no.
That enables you to sell on Amazon, but in order to use the selling partner API, you need to also connect with a new or an existing AWS account.
Yes,
so
correct.
Which are two separate things. But the seller account can grant access to AWS developer accounts to perform actions. Yeah. So
that is correct.
With that set up, you can continue.
Yes, we can go through all of these, but just to mention it here, for those of you that may want to revisit it later on, we do have a documentation on this integration on the Learn pages. It's under Fulfillment Integrations and Amazon FBA, so you can find all the steps here on what are the prerequisites to get started with the seller account, AWS accounts, how to create your AWS IAM user, etc., register as a developer in the seller API. These are all the steps here to get these credentials, but we'll go through how, at least a little bit, the surface, scratch the surface of how you can get these. It's not a super complex process, but it's good if you have the steps detailed, as we do have in the Learn pages. So let's consider that you do have these credentials here. As you can see, they do have how do you call that? Just a placeholder to add your own information, right? Let's say that the key point is this guy here, which is a function that is running once an order is created, an event is fired from Crystallize. And as you can see here, consider that I have created a connection to the seller partner API, what I want to do is actually have access to the different endpoints and operations of that API. That is sounding a bit weird, but essentially the selling partner API has different endpoints, and its main endpoint has different available operations. So for the different works that we need to be doing, like handle our stock or do something else, change the pipelines, change staging, or do whatever with fulfillment, we can essentially control that externally as well. But in this step, we just want to place an actual order to be fulfilled in the seller API. And this is exactly what we're doing. And we're accessing the endpoint create fulfillment order and the fulfillment outbound endpoint. And this is the operation that we're using, create fulfillment order. It gets kind of, you may get kind of lost here.
Yeah. So this at this point, I'm kind of confused because I don't really know these namings. Obviously, that whenever you're dealing with a third-party system, there's tons of things to learn, right? So there are naming conventions and how they operate. And I guess for every dropshipping partner that you use, they're gonna use different names for things. And this is obviously just the example for AWS, or FBA. So if you were to use I don't know, a different one like ongoing or ShipBob or something, they would have different names here. Obviously, different ways to connect.
But most probably, the skeleton would be pretty similar, at least. So that's something you can, of course, just change here if you want to. But all right, going through the fields really briefly, what you need to provide here is basically an ID for this order. This can be external. That means, and this is pretty crucial and pretty cool here, is that you can create an order in Amazon using the order ID from Crystallize. So if I had my payload here, I could very simply do, instead of this guy, I could do payload.order.id, something like this. That is the order that I get specifically from ID from Crystallize.
Yeah. So the ID that you get, this might not be exactly what you write here because this is determined by the GraphQL query that you can craft yourself.
Exactly. That is exactly the case. So you can actually add all the order information from the query here, but just for this test, essentially, which is actually running in the sandbox API of Amazon, we do have the dummy body that they expect to receive, so that they can give you back a proper response. So this is the example body that they have. Of course, if you want to use that in production, you just remove these options here. And essentially, as you can see, you have it here. You remove the sandbox option or turn it to false. And essentially, you're able to access the APIs in different regions and different marketplaces, as you can see here. You can find all of this information is detailed in both Amazon docs, and we have links here as to where you can get the different IDs, etc., and what you can change the different fields into. But essentially, these are primarily information you get from the orders in Crystallize. Things you may want to change is what action do you want for fulfillment, things like that, very minor, let's say, details, notification emails and stuff like that.
Yeah. So doing automatic warehousing like this is easy enough if you provide the proper information from your Crystallize products.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
We do allow you to store any kind of data, any kind of metadata on products and product variants. So that allows you to put, it allows you to be able to store any information that any third-party dropshipping provider would require. So as long as you prepare your Crystallize products with this data, it's easy enough to do.
That is correct. And to be honest, in the projects that I've seen, we do not require all of this, detailed information that much. So it's not like you define notification emails specifically. At least the one that I saw, the one that I worked on. Yeah. So, but it's there if you need it. That's the case. And of course, exactly like you said, semantically wise, it should be totally fine and covered in Crystallize. There should be no problem whatsoever.
Nice.
And you can query this information from the webhook directly.
Yeah.
Cool. So the code is very simple. As you can see, it performs a request to the selling partner API, the specific endpoint, the specific operation to actually create an order in FBA. And then if it finds an error, it just gives you back, oh, there's an error. Otherwise, it just returns the items that it essentially managed to add there.
Yeah, I can recognize these items.
Yes,
this is the same as. Yeah, we saw this earlier now, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. One thing for the people that are going to be using that got me confused initially is that if Amazon is fine with your request, it just responds with nothing. It gives you back an empty object. So don't get super weird. That's why I have this guy here. They will only send you back an error if there is something. Otherwise, it means that it's okay. Kind of weird, but that's the way this goes.
Yeah, and also to clarify, the return statement in the end there, where you put the items in there, this is just a way for the webhook invocation that happened, a way for it to be I don't know, detailed with specific information that you might want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yeah. Oh, and
so yes, you can change the information here. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Okay, so what we also discussed with Håkon before this chat, essentially we could also obviously change the status or the stage of an order in a pipeline if we wanted to. Just performing a request back to Crystallize to essentially update the order with some information that is, it fulfilled by Amazon, okay, true, or done, or whatever, or posted or something. This could be totally done. So, but we left that as a basic example here. Maybe we can add that in the future if you guys are interested. But that's the code side of things. It's quite simple. What I want to dive. Sorry, go for it.
Before you dive further in, the file we're looking at right now. This is what happens. This is the code that's getting executed on each webhook invocation for order created. And you've commented out some things, but I'd like to point out that you can, if you want to, you can do more than just fulfilled by Amazon here. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever that makes sense for your business. So in this case, you could also, like we have here, send an order confirmation email to the customer as well at this point, which also makes a lot of sense. And maybe you want to do that based on the fulfilled by Amazon response.
That is true.
And you can also, let's say that, I don't know, something went wrong with the FBA creation, and for some reason you couldn't put it in fulfillment by Amazon. So in that case, maybe what you want to do is move the order to a specific pipeline that you create in Crystallize for orders that for some reason were not fulfilled by Amazon, and you need to manually go in and, I don't know, verify that the SKUs are in Amazon, or I don't know, do a manual action. Yeah,
that's absolutely right, and it brings us back to how essentially you want to get some time in and set up your Crystallize backend, basically, the way that you want it to look like. So just to make it easy for you to work with it as well. So that's a cool part. Awesome. So, okay, this is basically code, quite simple, as you saw, nothing super extreme here. As the documentation here states, basically you want essentially two parts in order to get this going. And get to actually have your first verification that, all right, you're able to fulfill with Amazon. What you want to be doing, oops, sorry for that zoom. Essentially you want to have, like Håkon said in the beginning, you want to have an Amazon seller account and an AWS account in place. So the reason being is that, of course, in order to sell and fulfill orders by Amazon, you need to have a seller account. That should be self-explanatory, but you also want an AWS account, and that is in order to provide programmatic access to essentially an external system to access your Amazon account, your seller account. So in order to do that, you should be able to follow these steps here. They're quite easily followed, quite detailed. This is from the documentation of AWS directly. And essentially it goes through creating a role that I can actually show that here, Håkon. So as you can see here, this is the services that I have my AWS account. I do have a user here, and this is the user, which is, I guess, me, that can essentially have access to my seller account externally. So this is what I've done here. So this user, if we go just dive in here, it does have if it ever loads, it does have a permission to access this selling partner API. And this is what we essentially want. And this is what you will be doing directly. And it assumes a role. This is basically the key point here, which is this role that essentially allows you to go in and create an order in the FBA interface externally. So this is what this guy is doing very, very, very briefly. So if you follow
so we can't show the seller's account point of view today. We don't have access to that account, but that's which would be cool to see though. But
so the idea is just to give you like a very brief overview there. You need actually the admin of the seller account in order to view it.
But do you need to is this a two-way thing? So the seller account needs to grant access to this particular user, or how does it work?
That is correct. So essentially on one side you create an account and you get a pair of tokens here that you can use. Of course, these are not they're quite hidden, but essentially once the creation of the user is done, you get a pair of credentials that you will be using. These are in the code, as you probably saw in the beginning. They're here, my AWS access ID and secret key. And this is the role that I am assuming that we discussed. So what is left is basically the selling partner client ID and secret. And these are related to the selling account that you have. So again, this is detailed here. It's this, guys, where you create a seller application. And basically here, you will end up with if you follow these steps, you end up with a developer profile and an application. This application essentially is the application that has access or provides access to that essential first user to access your seller account. Is it too confusing, Håkon?
A little bit, yes, but that's okay. The initial setup is obviously going to be a bit cumbersome, or I don't know. I mean, it's important that you don't grant access to anybody, right? So
I think it's a schema would be easier, but essentially you create a user and then you create an application, and then the user via the application has access to the account. That is the story here. And as you can see here, I do have some. This is the role ARN that I'm assuming. These are some credentials that you need to generate, and the client ID and secret that we have in this place here are generated upon creation of this app. And the refresh token, this guy is this one. So you can essentially just generate it right out of the box. And then the story is way more simple, because now you go into Crystallize territory. So this gets from complex to easy. You add your credentials in the service API. And then afterwards, you just go in Crystallize. You create a beautiful new webhook, which should be looking like this. You add the URL of your service API. On order create, you just state that you need an event, and you just select the information that you want to be getting and posting in Amazon via the webhook. Just for those of you that are worried, we do have the query here. If you want to just copy paste that, this would be totally fine. So just essentially get the payload and change the values in here, and you should be set up. And minor detail, remove the options sandbox value here.
Well, if it's production, I assume.
Yes.
So let me ask a question that I would think some people might have. And that is, after you've successfully posted the order to FBA, and they later deal with packing and shipping. Is it any way for the service API to subscribe to events that happens?
That's a really good question. I would assume that this would be something that has to do with this guy.
Yeah,
like some sort of notification. I don't know if AWS, I have not reached to that point where AWS gives you back feedback on where it's at. I know that once you post it, it automatically starts fulfillment. But I bet that if AWS just has this access, this is probably what the seller account user knows way better than me, that this is typically what they're working with. Will have a way better understanding of that.
Fair enough. So and the answer is we don't really know. But I guess we can always pull for set up a job that pulls for data from FBA.
That will be certainly the case that works. And I would assume that in order to get that, you need to access the fulfillment inbound endpoint of Amazon.
I see.
But I've not dug up too much into it, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's a lot of calls that you can have in there.
That's good.
To tell the truth.
Good. Yeah, because essentially so what you can do in theory, although we don't really know how that would look like in terms of code, but you could potentially have fulfillment pipelines in Crystallize that mimic whatever you have in Amazon. So you could then track everything that happens within FBA. You could track that within Crystallize, so you have it all in one tool.
That's absolutely correct. You can use pipelines to map essentially the stage there.
Which would be very, very useful.
It will be. One thing that I also want to mention, this is code-wise as well, is that AWS essentially, I'm not sure if you noticed, but essentially it requires SKUs to be sent as part of the body, and essentially it would be a good idea to have SKUs actually the same values as you have in Crystallize, which I guess that would be the point. Since Crystallize is, you can essentially just add your own SKU or add an external identifier that you want in Crystallize and have that in here. I think I found it way easier if I just mapped what I had in AWS in Crystallize.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all the product variants require an SKU in Crystallize, so which is
exactly
what most people would use here.
Yes. So just as a small thing there.
What about the seller fulfillment order item ID, which was a long name? Do you know what that relates to?
Okay, yeah, sure. This is also one of the things that you can essentially just define yourself. And actually, I cannot recall right now, which is a really good question. But I can definitely have that in the documentation. That will be a really good thing. I do have details on what all of these guys are doing. But unfortunately, I cannot recall right now. If I remember correctly, it's how you specify the ID of the item specifically. So in Crystallize, you would add your item ID, but it would be nice to have it strictly defined there as well.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because in the order item ID, I mean, for us, the SKU is the identifier for the product variant.
Yeah, I guess that's their flexibility kind of thing.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Fair enough. All right.
Yep. So that's all I had to point out here. You can, if you're running in multiple marketplaces, you can just define the different marketplace IDs and which one you want to post the order to. It would be good to remember that you have different marketplaces where you have access to products, different from the US to Canada to Europe to UK, etc., etc.
Right.
So you just select which one you want to post.
Would this be a place where you could use stock locations? The stock location for each item determines which market this goes to.
This would be really nice. So I would see it as two options. First is, all right, where do I, if I'm mapping the FBA location in Crystallize, then this would be an excellent idea. The other thing is, and this I'm not the best person to ask because it's related to tax. If you are in the US and you have item information or you have stock there, then do I sent from the US to Europe or something. But definitely you can do exactly what you said. So you can map the different stock locations in Crystallize, get the identifiers of the different marketplaces mapped in here, and basically selecting where do you, in which marketplace you post the order based on the location selected or the shipping address, perhaps as well.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, and yeah, cool.
That's it. Code-wise, it's quite simple. Step-wise, it's a few steps. But just follow the guide here. It should be quite simple to set up. And I think an important thing is that if you have like any questions, reach out to the community, me, Hope, on the guys, and we can of course go through any questions that you have here. Yeah. I think that's all I had to show for today.
Yeah, fair enough. No, so we cannot be the experts on how to do FBA integration. That is Amazon, but this sort of opens up the door a little bit, and is one way of doing an integration. If you want to do a fully fledged integration where you track all of the things happening within FBA and sort of monitor that into Crystallize, there's a bit more that you need to set up, but the general gist of the architecture should be pretty much the same. And if I wanted to see the code that you just showed me, where can I find that?
So this will be in the service API. Right. And this will be, if I go right here, and I'm going to go to my service API boilerplate. If you're running the server or on serverless on AWS, this will be a bit different, or actually not.
No, right? It will be the same.
It will be exactly the same. That is absolutely right. So if I go here, I do have my webhooks order created, essentially having this fulfillment function that I'm running, and this is in here.
Nice.
So the code should be available if you want to visit it. And yeah, you just need to change these tokens. I would suggest you use the environment files to do that. But I want to show you, at least showcase here, like this is the whole body of the request.
Nice. Cool, man. I learned something. It was cool. And it's nice to see how, I would say, relatively easy it is to set up. I mean, there are cumbersome steps here, but the hurdles that you need to jump are mostly in the terms of setting up accounts, granting permissions and all that, which is, it differs between different third-party shipping systems. So
yeah, exactly.
It would be cool. Yeah. I guess we will do it later in the future as well. We will do some examples on other drop shippings as well, just to see the differences.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, the base structure should be the same though. So it's primarily how you structure the requests, I think, and how you set up initially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story.
Cool, man.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining. It was really nice to show you this new integration that we created. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to any one of us. Happy to answer pretty much everything and help as much as we can with your fulfillment problems. And yeah, that's all from us. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, bye.